Chapter 4 Northern Sumatra Part 1 Aceh Government The government of Aceh, its different dependencies, and Gayo and Alas are divided into 6 parts under the present Dutch rule. 1. The division of Great Aceh. 2. The division of Pidi. 3. The division of North Coast of Aceh. 4. The East Coast of Aceh. 5. Gayo and Alas. 6. The West Coast of Aceh. Aceh was never a united kingdom under autocratic sultan. Even in the Golden Area, the renowned Sultan Iskandar Muda was more to be regarded as a harbour king than as a political power. His pomp and glory rested mostly on his trade monopoly, when later the harbour monopoly commenced to give lessening returns. The bonds, the bonds which checked the activities of the feudal lords, the liberals, began to weaken, and they in turn waged savage warfare upon one another. Due to commercial interests of Aceh, the Sultan had always sought for conquest and treaties abroad rather than the proper subjection of these robber barons at home, and such conquests as were effected in the early part of the 17th century, as that of Gayo, were but incidental. By the end of 17th century, the power of the sultans had so fallen that they were even in danger of losing the whole kingdom. When the Dutch entered Aceh in 1873, the Sultan no longer had dependencies under his political control, and was living in but a shell of his former kingdom. Fats, as quoted in Kramer, describes the fallen monarch in a dirty, half-fallen Kraton palace. There yet lived a monarch who had entirely lost control of his vassals. Out of his small income, he barely managed to keep his court, which consisted of a small group of opium addicts. In living circumstance, this monarch was the poorest and most wretched ruler of the entire archipelago. In spite of the dismal political state of the Sultan of Aceh, he was still the object of religious veneration. As Raffles expressed the matter, the Sultan was honored everywhere by his subjects, but obeyed men nowhere. The idea of a sacred king is also found in Minangkabau among the Bataks and elsewhere in Sumatra and the archipelago, and is not peculiar to the Achinese. After the Dutch had seized the Kraton, the Sultan fled to Pidi, and the last shadow, the former glory of the Sultan of Aceh, vanished. With the overthrow of the pretender Sultan Muhammad Dawud in 1803, the Sultanate of Aceh ceased to exist. The political prerogatives of the sultans have been had been few in number, 9 to be exact. Five of these had been but rarely used, and consisted of various forms of punishment which could be inflicted on disobedient subjects. These were in brief the looping of offence, impaling, a kind of crucifixion, slicing of the flesh from the body of the condemned, and the pounding of the head of the condemned in a rice mortar. Two other prerogatives were of but an honorary nature: the privilege of firing a cannon at sunset, and the right of being accosted with the expression "Dilat." The remaining two prerogatives were of importance. The Sultan could issue written orders. The Sultan could issue written orders and letters of introduction, but of which were called Sarakata, and the Sultans also alone had the right to coin money. Outside of the actual province of the Sultan, Great Aceh was divided into 3 saris or provinces, each named after the number of mukims marks units. which is originally possessed. Thus, the names of the Sagis were and still are called 20 called 22 mukims, 26 mukims, and 25 mukims. Naturally, the number of mukims have increased in each of the Sagis since their foundation. The origin of the Sagi division is not certain. Snowhogan believes that originally the Sagis were formed by Uli Balangs who wished to maintain offensive and defensive alliances. Each of the three federations was led by the most powerful Uli Balang in its midst. Such a ship alone had seen matters which were of communal importance. The other Ulebalans governed their territory as though there were no Sagis. The position of Sagi had, as that of Ulebalang and other officials in general, was hereditary. Originally, it was the three Sagi chiefs who elected the Sultan. They chose whom they wished. Usually some from the family of the deceased monarch, but sometimes even strangers to Aceh were elected. The person chosen had to pay each of the chiefs $500 as a marriage present. The coronation of the new sultan was spoken of as a marriage between the prince of and his land. This system led to grave abuse and bribery, so that the other Uli belongs side in the election. According to the Dutch regulations for the government of Aceh, as drawn up in 1881, Great Aceh was divided into districts Uli belongs, the district into Mukims, and the Mukims into Gampongs. The head of the sagas in this way were dispensed with, although they later were also taken into the government and as an act of courtesy. The Ulebalans were of ancient days the actual folk and territorial chiefs. Each was governor, judge, and military leader in his own district, in which he admitted no higher authority. The power was older than that of the Sultan and did not rest on royal installment. The Ulebalans are invested by their own people with the titles of Teku, from Malay Tuanku, my lord of Tekupo, or Teku Apon. By strangers, they are called Raja. They receive taxes where cattle are killed and when they act in native plus locations. They also receive salaries from the Dutch. In Great Aceh, there are 15 newly belonging districts, of which two are independent. The Tulebalang has his 80s. The chief of these, called Banta, is usually chosen from one of his younger brothers or nearest male relatives. The companions of the Ulebalangs are called Rakan. These are people who live in his house or in a neighborhood and receive food from him and his family. Between the village governments and the Ulebalangs come the Imeums, the heads of the Mukims. Originally, the Imeums were the religious leaders, Arab Imam leader, of the Friday services held in the Mukims. Presently, however, the post became secular in nature and the Imeums were converted to hereditary chiefs of territorial divisions, the Mukims. As such, they were lesser Ulubalangs and were made use of by the officials to announce and carry out orders. The conduct of the Friday service went over to service mosque officials, the Meum Messagids. The Dutch government, as already stated, has confirmed the Mukim chiefs and has made them governing officials, although the Mukims really are not governing territories, yet the people consider them as such and as standing above the gampongs or towns. The village at present, at present is the smallest unit of government. The village population is depicted as a big family consisting of four elements, the so-called four corners of the kampong. 1. The village chief, Kecil, little order of the father, Koe or Mba, or Koe or Mba of the village. The village, the village priest, Tengku Masana, or the mother Ma of the village. 3. The village elders, Usung Useng Usueng Usueng Duha, literally old members. They are the men of experience, wisdom, good manners, and knowledge of the adat. The remainder Ureng Le, thus the children of father Kecil and mother Tengku, matters matters of common importance to the village as occasion of feast first receive approval after general consideration. The religious head Tengku is supposed to be literate so that he can read in the Malay written Kitab Sirat when he can find all the prescriptions for fastings, washing of bodies, public religious services, etc. Usually, however, the lack of knowledge of a Tengku is proverbial. This because the office of Tengku, like that of the Kecil, is hereditary. Many Tengkus allow their office to be filled by more later members of the community, given the substitute of some of their pay. The Kecil has to look out for order and safety in his territory and the town. He has charge of all family law, the rice culture, housing. He regulates the distribution of the meat from slaughtered animals. He gives orders for the beginning and cessation of fasting, etc. The distribution of meat is an important ceremony in which everyone receives his due portion according to his rank and circumstances. In regulating most events which occur in the village, the father Kecil and the mother Tengku confer together, the first because she is responsible for the native customary law, the other, the latter, a sponsor for the religious law, the Hukum Adat Arabian for custom, Hukum Arabian Hukum to speak out. The Tengku receives in general the care of religious matters in the village. Among the tasks of the Tengku may be enumerated. 1. The care of the village mosque. 2. The collection of the religious texts. 3. In normal cases, the performance of the wedding ceremony. 4. The giving of a blessing and religious feast. 5. Religious care for the dead and dying. 6. Oversight at the religious slaughter of animals. 7. Muhammadan blessing of children. As elsewhere, in Sumatra, the oldest divisions of the people was into ships, and not into town or territorial units. Hence, the territorial governmental system, which I have just outlined for the greater part at least, postdates the conversion of the people to Mohammedanism. In Aceh, the common descendants of ancestors in the male line constitute a kaum or suke, Arabian kaum people or genealogy. The kaums at the present day are very degenerated and are only maintained in the highland section of Great Aceh, where political development is backward and bloodfeuds frequent. The Kawan division splits the Acehese people, or at least part of them, into four groups. The significance of the group names has been lost. The four ships are 1. Le Retoi, the 300. 2. Chutja Tosandan. 3. Ja or Toba Te. 4. Imam Penet, the four imams. The members of each kawam consider one another as blood relations and have common rights and duties, especially if one of the members is insulted, wounded, or killed. In case of such an even blood revenge, bila must be taken or well-good diet obtained. Usually representatives of each of the ships may be found in every town. Where many members of the same ship live together, they have as leader a chief Panglima Kawam who has charge of matters of communal interest, especially those connected with blood revenge. The Ule Balangs confirm the choice of the people and give the new official at his election the particular steel weapon. A territorial chief is never chosen as Panglima Kawam for this double function might bring the official into conflict with himself. The Imam Pe'et, the Imam Pe'et has always been more powerful, both in number and in ability to wage war, than any of the three other Kawams. The remaining three, therefore, have more or less held themselves in confederation against it. When Aceh transformed its governmental system from a genealogical to a territorial basis, the three confederate ships held up the standing by shutting the rivals out from offices. While the three confederate ships have furnished all the Ulebalangs and other high officials in the kingdom, none of the Imam Pe'at none of the Imam Pe'at ships have been able to rise higher than the rank of Mukim ship. While at one time each of the three ships elected its panglima separately, later they united in choosing these ship officials. Furthermore, the three confederates aided each other in waging war for blood revenge. At some prehistoric period, all four ships are probably exogamic. A man was prohibited marriage with a woman from the same ship, and all four probably had totemic restrictions. Suhugonje writes that at the period in which he investigated Aceh, the ship Jasandan forbade its members the flesh of white buffalo and a certain saltwater fish called alu. It is common in India to find ships which originally were exogamic, later turned endogamic with a breakdown of primitive conditions. Such probability was the case in Aceh, for Kleber writes that the four Kawoms originally were endogamous, but that later the members of the three confederates could intermarry, but they could not marry with the Kawam out of the confederacy. The resemblance between the Kawams or Sukis of Aceh and the Sukus of Minangkabau is striking since both have the division into four. It appears to me not unlikely that some form of dual division in early Aceh, as in early Minangkabau, as in early Minangkabau, will account for the later rivalry between the three confederates and the isolated Kawam. However, in Aceh, there is no tradition that this ever was the case. In Aceh, the people are divided into nobility, commoners, and slaves. Class distinction, while more pronounced than among the Bataks, is however less marked than in the southern regions of Sumatra, which at one time were ruled by Java. Class distinctions come most prominently to the fore on matters regarding competence to hold office, the formation of marriage alliances, and the amount of bride price. The nobility is composed of the Sultan, his family, and the law-giving hereditary chiefs. The commoners are usually subdivided into three levels, although it is difficult to find agreement as to the final distinctions between the three. 1. The prominent people. These are relatives of the Ulebalangs, the Imams, the members of the village government, the Mohammedan religious teachers, those instructed in writing, all notable families, and the rich. 2. The middle class. This includes the family members of the village rulers, the church leaders, those who take the religious duties seriously, and in general those who, without belonging to the distinguished class, still enjoy a certain amount of prestige. 3. The common people, to whom may also be reconciled slaves and the descendants of slaves. Slavery. Aceh obtained most of its slaves from Nias, while the majority of the slaves in Gayo and Alas came from the Bataks. The Achenese prized the Niha, very highly as servants, for they were considered obedient, easy to teach, diligent, and trustworthy. The women from Nias were thought especially beautiful. A certain amount of slaves were obtained in wars, but the greater part were bought in Nias, or from the Malays and the Bataks. Furthermore, there were some Chinese from the States and Africans from Mecca. Negroes were highly prized in Aceh as house servants. In Aceh, as among the Bataks as and elsewhere, debtors who were without means bound themselves to their creditors to work out their debts as pawns. Pawns were able to purchase their freedom, while slaves could not do so unless their masters consented. A man was prohibited by Muslim law from marrying his slave, and this variety of marriage was unknown in Aceh. The law, however, permitted a master to live in concubinage with his slave. In Aceh, this seldom happened, for the Acehnese laid too much stress on the maternal descent. Muslim law states that the children of such a union have all the rights of children born of a free woman. In Aceh, this seldom was the case. The legal rights were the same, but the social position was different, and one never forgot that such a person had slave blood in his or her veins. Islam does not forbid a free man from marrying the slave of another. It often happened in Aceh that a free man, while away from home for some time, married a slave of someone in the neighborhood of where he was staying. According to religious law, the children of such a marriage were slaves and belonged to the owner of the woman. The Adad, however, treated the children as free, although the slave, although of slave descent. After a shorter or longer period of time, slaves are amalgamated by the free people. This accounts for much of the blood mixture in Aceh. A slave was able to obtain his freedom in several ways, for there were no legal means prescribed. Many masters made them free if they become permanently sick. Some acquired some acquired property and, with the consent of their masters, gave a feast at which their freedom was proclaimed. Slaves, on the whole, were humanly treated and handled as members of the household of their masters. Criminal courts Dampier, who rose in 1717. The slaves in Aceh have no hard lot, and many are merchants and shopkeepers. They are able to purchase their freedom. They hold markets, act as money changers, and most of the fishermen are slaves. Some own their dwellings. Raffles was attempted in 1820 as the governor of Bencoolen to put an end to the slave trade. The Dutch later gradually suppressed it. While this trade in beings lasted, it caused frequent warfare in Nias, for the Achenese constant came to this island to purchase or steal slaves. Marriage. According to the renowned Dutch jurist Van Vollenhoven, and to the commonly accepted opinion of Dutch ethnologists, the Achenese relationship and marriage laws are based on the bilateral family, with survivals on the matrilineate and patrilineate, and with Mohammedan purposes and instructions. The early writer Jacobs also believes that the Achenese went through three stages: the matrilineate, the patrilineate, and finally the bilateral family. The main reason the main reason these ethnographers have for postulating early matriarchat in Aceh lies in the fact that the man must take up residence after marriage in the house and town of his wife. As we have seen, however, this form of multi-local residence probably only arose with the formation of the town system and the breakdown of the original genealogical patrilineal ships. There seems no doubt, however, of the transition from patrilineal to bilateral reckoning, for this has occurred in Aceh in the past, and the transformation is still taking place at the present day. The Aceh marriage gives each of the parents equal rights. Descent is counted through both father and mother, and both man and wife possesses their own goods. In accordance with the so-called mother right principle, the woman by her marriage remains in her own house or that of her parents, while the children also are brought up there. If the man does not as yet live in the village, he visits her in her house. This principle of matrilocal residence is contrary to Mohammedan law, but is insisted upon by the fellowship kecil as conforming to the adat. No marriage can take place without the consent of the kecil. Only where the population is superabundant and the supply of marriageable girls and women without husbands by no means excessive will he give a hand to a man of his gampong marrying outside of it. There are plenty of women here. He objects. Why should you go and scatter your seed elsewhere? On the other hand, the kecil has no objections to a woman marrying a man from outside in the gampong, as this increases the population of his town. Due to matriarchal residence, the closest relatives in a town are those who live close to one another, and they usually are the descendants of a woman in the female line. On the other hand, the descendants of a man can be found scattered around in the various villages. The matrilineal ships no longer are of much influence in the Aceh marriage, and as son exist only as survivals. Blood relations in Aceh are called ware, which in the Arabian word for hereditary name warit, although there is no sort of hereditary right. The blood relations are distinguished, as the Achenese express themselves as of own seed or of foreign seed. Directly contrary to Minangkabau idea on the subject, it is the man and not the woman who is supposed to propagate the species. The seed is thought to develop an idea in the womb as the seed of a plant in the field. While this is a Mohammedan concept, it is also pagan, and it is found among the Toraja of Celebes. All the blood relatives of the older generation on the father's side are said to be one's own seed. They are all called wali, Arabian for guardian. The relatives of older generation of the on the older on the wom, on the woman mother's side are called karong. When both groups are merged together, they are called wali karong. The Achenis, like the Malays, have lost special terms in their kinship terminology to indicate clan relationships and match the father's brother and mother's brother with the father. In Aceh, the Islamic marriage rules are followed excepting where they conflict with native adat. The marriage restrictions are similar to the Mohammedans. A man cannot marry more than 4 women at the same time, but polygyny is rare with a man of ordinary means. When a wealthy man takes more than one wife at a time, he does so at the cost of domestic tranquility. Naturally, a harem is impossible in Aceh since marriage is matrilocal. A man cannot marry a woman in the Mohammedan forbidden grades of relationship. According to the Quran, a man is not allowed to marry any blood relative on the mother's side with the exception of the descendants of uncles, aunts, great uncles and great aunts. But the adat goes even further. It is forbidden for brothers to marry women who are sisters. This same rule holds for the Bataks and the Gayo. It is also forbidden to marry a relation by marriage. This eliminates the levirate and surrogate, although they sometimes occur. It is forbidden both by civil and religious law to marry the children of a brother or sister. Cousin marriage is found, as in the Mohammedan world. Thus, the children of two brothers may marry, although this form of cousin marriage is forbidden almost everywhere outside of Islam. Cousin marriage formally was permitted in Aceh, that is, the children of a brother and sister were allowed to marry. Cousin marriage, however, was limited to a certain extent, for marriage for the daughter of a fathers or mother's older brother or sister was regarded as incest. A somewhat similar age status restriction is found among the Bataks, or a man should marry his deceased wife's younger sister but not her older sister. Naturally, the Achenese have different kinship terms for the older and younger brothers and sisters of the parents, as in common as, as is common elsewhere in archipelago in Sumatra. The other prescribes that an elder sister should marry before a younger. Certain marriage restrictions are of a purely Mohammedan nature and as such are similar to those of Minangkabau. A woman is forbidden to marry for a certain period after her former marriage is dissolved. This is the Arabian Iddah period, and a similar name is employed for the period in Aceh, Gayo, and Alas if the husband has died. The period is 4 months and 10 days if divorced, 3 months and 10 days. If a divorced man is pregnant, she cannot marry until 4 days after the birth of a child. The Mohammedan law does not hinder child marriages, and girls formerly were brought to their husbands before they were married. The average age of marriage for girls of the better class was 10 years. Now, this has been raised to between 16 and 20. Child marriage is contrary to primitive custom, and even in Gayo and Alas, where little emphasis is laid on poverty, girls marry between 15 and 25. The engagement marriage in Aceh, as has already been shown, is very much an affair of the kampong. Thus, it is not relative of the would-be bridegroom, but the kecil, the tengku, certain elders, and the go-between, who undertake the presentation of the betrothal gift from the bridegroom. First, however, the marriage proposal has to be made. This is done by the parents of the young man after they have asked the consent of the authorities of the village. If both sides accept, an intermediary is sent by the parents of the boy and the bride price is discussed. If an agreement is reached, the betrothal gift is brought to the home of the bride, where it is accepted by the authorities of her kampong. The engagement present usually consists of gold ornaments, whose value is about half of the bride price. A feast is now held, and the young couple are engaged. If later the marriage is broken off by the family of the man, the betrothal gift which serves as pledge remains in the possession of the bride. If the family of the bride breaks the engagement, they return double the value of the pledge. The engagement lasts until the girl is considered of marriageable age. In Aceh, Gayo, and Alas as in Minangkabau, the engaged pair must avoid one another. This is not surprising in these countries, for likewise before engagement there is no free mingling of the sexes. In spite of precautions, however, and the fact that in Aceh girls seldom leave the maternal house before their marriage, secret love affairs are by no means unknown. The wedding. The date for the wedding is decided by mutual deliberation between the two families, some lucky day being decided upon. Among the Gayo, the family of the bride hands the family of the bridegroom a knotted string or a quipus, on which there are as many knots as there remain days before the wedding. Among the many preparations which have to be for the wedding may be counted the bringing of the bride price, the making of new curtains, pillows, mats, etc., the gathering of firewood, the selling of rice, the preparation of siri, and the borrowing of hiring of the bridal decorations. So-called gacha evenings take place at the home of the bride during the 3 days preceding the actual wedding. No member of the groom's family is allowed to be present at this time. The head palms, feet shawls, and the fingertips of the bride are smeared with the red sap of gacha leaves, thus giving the name to the festivities. Wealthy people give raise to the entire village at one or more of these evenings. For the first of these 3 days until the seventh day after the marriage, the young man's bridegroom Linto and the young man a bride Dara Barrow. The actual wedding ceremony begins on the Sokot Andam day, the day following of the third Gacha night. The day is so named because the bride is clad entirely in her wedding outfit and has the hair of her forehead and a little of her eyebrows clipped and done. The guests of the bride and bridegroom all bring presents. The bride is purified at this time, or as the nativities say, cult, in order to exorcise evil spirits for her. An elderly woman, usually the wife of the Keji, strews her with salt and unsalted rice, sprinkles her with mead water in which is placed a gold ring, straws her behind the ears with saffron-colored rice, and places some of the rice in her mouth. The wedding ceremony is a mixture of South Indian and Mohammedan ritual, for primitive pagans are lacking in ceremony on this occasion. The name of a wedding is Mample. The name of the for wedding is Mample, Malay Mempilai from Tamil Mapilai. The Gayo and Alas people use similar words. On the evening of the same day, the Andam day, there is a procession in which the bridegroom in full costume is led to the dwelling of the bride-price, where all the family members are gathered. The bridegroom is on horseback and is accompanied by a native orchestra. The members of a bride's village are lined up the house of the bride ready to receive the guests. Jacobs writes that both sides are lined up as if for battle, and a verbal competition between the two parties is reminiscent of capture marriage. This seems not unlikely, as symbolic capture marriage is still practiced among the Bataks and in South Sumatra. Finally, the bridegroom is led up the horse ladder, where he remains standing halfway, the meanwhile being pelted with rice. Rice pelting is an ancient Hindu custom of perhaps fertility significance. A man of the bride's family now gives the groom all kinds of instruction in a more or less jocular vein as to how he should treat the bride, how he should work for the feasts, etc. Then the bridegroom steps into the house. The wedding ceremony proper takes place in the foregallery of the house in Mohammedan fashion. Certain symbolic acts are performed in the course of the ceremony, however, to signify the union of the couple and are Hindu rather than Arabian in origin, such as eating together out of the same dish and the seating of the bride on the lap of the groom. At about 2 o'clock in the morning, the bridegroom and his party go back to their own village without further formalities. The marriage, as briefly described here, a fuller description may be found in English in Snokhogonje's book on Atjeh, is the complete ceremony enacted for members of good families at the time of first family. The bridegroom visits the bride every night for 7 nights after the wedding, but the marriage is not consummated until 7 nights after the wedding. We have seen that the Minangkabau also had delayed consummation of the marriage, and the custom is widespread in the archipelago. The bride price. Actually, there is no bride price or purchase marriage in Aceh, for according to Mohammedan law, the sum paid is given by the bridegroom to the bride immediately after the wedding service and not to the family of the bride. This sum, according to Acehese adat, must be paid at once. According to Mohammedan law, the amount may be paid in installments. Since marriage is matrilocal, the so-called bride price is necessarily low and is compensated for by the fact that the parents of the bride furnish the house and even food for a year or until a first child is born. As soon as the marriage is consummated and the wife no longer is virgin, the husband gives her certain jewels, received from silver or gold according to his circumstances. If the husband later divorces his wife, he can take back all that he has given, but not these jewels. The Chinese say that the jewels symbolize the fact that the tree has been climbed and the fruit has been plucked. Snook Hogonje has summarized the variations in Chinese marriage from two Mohammedan law. 1. The power of the village chief Kechi to prevent a marriage which is contrary to the village interest. 2. The other law under which a woman can never be required by her husband to leave her home with him, and is even prohibited from so doing. The sole exception to this rule occurs when both her family and the local village authorities consent to the party. This usually happens only when the woman's family is very inferior in rank or social position to that of the man, so that the customary gifts on his part are not reciprocated by her. 3. The betrothal gift pledge and its legal consequences. 4. The gift after the consummation of the marriage and the rules which govern it. Avoidance. A husband and wife must treat one another with great respect. While technonomy is not practiced in Great Aceh, and the husband and wife keep their own names after the birth of a child, yet a husband and wife are forbidden mentioning one another's name. A woman refers to her husband as the father of my child or the man I married. Man never appears alone with his wife in public. The greatest respect shown in Aceh, however, is between parents-in-law and sons and daughters-in-law. This commences with the engagement. The strongest avoidance is between mother-in-law and son-in-law. It is less between father-in-law and daughter-in-law, and less between mother-in-law and daughter-in-law. The engaged or newly married man has to keep out of the way of his parents-in-law as much as possible, in spite of the fact that he usually lives with them in the same house. When the son-in-law comes home to his wife, he notifies his return by carving so as to give the inmates of the house time to get out of his way. Where the circumstances as for example a death or a big sacrificial meal make a meeting necessary, the son-in-law takes a very reserved attitude towards his parents-in-law and treats them with respect. This respect is shown in the way in which the husband greets and speaks to his parents-in-law, or when he sits in their presence. The strongest forms of avoidance are shown just after the marriage, and the original timidity only begins to wane after the birth of the first child. An older brother likewise may seldom if ever be spoken to. A man must go out of his way to perform any command of an elder brother which he considers just. He always speaks of the elder brother in the greatest terms of respect. Sisters are more intimate with one another, but not to the same degree as among Europeans. None of the writers mention the relationship between brothers and sisters. Presumably, there is no rigid avoidance between them here as among the Bataks. The avoidance customs prevent a firm family bond being formed in Aceh. The only strong family tie found is that between mother and child, and yet in divorce a woman will separate from her children without feeling remorse. An Achenese may seldom speaks of his father, and then only in the same way he speaks of any other man. It is his mother who gives him advice. Marriage property. Everything which the man brings into the marriage remains his possession, even if it had the pretense of being a present to his wife after the 7th day of the marriage. If the father if the father of the man still lives, he usually brings little else than his clothing. The chief gifts which belong to the bride are the bridal treasures and the betrothal present. The jewelry gifts which the wife received at the consummation of her marriage also belong to her. Everything which the wife received from her husband up to the seventh day after her marriage, inclusive of the engagement and the virginity gift, remains property of the woman. In marriage, the man and the woman keep the property fully apart. When the man and the woman earn two common work becomes joint property. This has special reference to field work, the time of divorce. Uh, the property is divided into two parts, and each party receives back the portion he or she brought into marriage. The goods earned in marriage are divided into two, even if the man did the earning. At time of death, property is divided according to the Quran, with the above mentioned exceptions regarding the rights of the spouses. Divorce. In Aceh, divorces are obtained solely according to Mohammedan law, while Kimber writes that divorces are less frequent in Aceh than in most Mohammedan countries due to matriarchal residence and the independence of the woman. Jacobs claims that they are very frequent indeed due to child marriages and the fact that the young couple scarcely know one another when engaged. The later writes that Achenis who have married 10 to 15 times are no anomaly, and that he personally had met a young girl of 13 who had just been cast aside by her third husband. The three forms of divorce are the one-sided repudiation (talaq), Arabian talak, spoken by the man, and the purchase of the repudiation teboi talaq, Arabian koel, by the woman, and the divorce pasa, Arabian fash, by the by the judge. A man can repudiate a woman at any time without showing cause. But a woman has to show cause such neglect to the ulebalang and the tunku before she can obtain her freedom. That is cause her husband to repudiate her by paying double the marriage price. In case of divorce, the man takes all the children. This is contrary to Mohammedan law, which allows the woman children who are too young to take care of themselves. But a man seldom divorces a woman who has child which is not yet wed. The talak or simple repudiation is common among the lower classes but seldom used among the nobility, as it causes harsh feelings between the two families. The man is supposed to speak a certain formula 3 times, but usually simply makes one statement, halt for the tea. After the formula is spoken the third time, the man can never take back the woman. The formula used is, I separate from you 3 times. Then the man takes the hand of the woman and lays it on 3 pieces of areca nut and says, be thou before me as a sister, 1, 2, 3. While this formula has best be done before witnesses, it is often done without them. It cannot be repeated except for the actual purpose of divorce. The formula can also be sent by mail if the man is away in another place. As stated, a woman divorced this way can never be taken back again. However, as well may be supposed, a man may speak the formula in a fit of anger and then repent. So the court allows one loophole. If the woman marries and then is divorced, the original husband can take her back. In Aceh, therefore, if a man wishes to take back the wife he has thus cast aside, he looks for a poor man and pays him to marry his wife. The man spends a night with the woman and then in turn divorces her. The first husband can remarry the woman. The first husband can remarry the woman after 3 months and 10 days. Laws administration. Before the Dutch arrived, there were no higher judges than the Ulebalangs. In order to take a law case, an accusation has to be made by a private party in the court. Cases were decided on the merits of tokens, tender, witnesses, Mohammedan or oaths, and if need he audios. Court usually was held in the ballet of the Ulebalang, but in serious cases, as theft or murder, the case was treated in the mosque. The oldest form of punishment was birth revenge, bila, a Hindu word, but taken by the members of one ship against those of another. Later Weged Arabic diet was accepted by the aggrieved ship. The right of asylum probably came from Hindu custom. Under Mohammedan rule, the criminal could flee to the Sultan's palace and become a servant of the Sultan. The manner of taking blood revenge differed from Muslim custom. Among the Mohammedans, blood revenge could only be taken in the case of murder or physical injury, and then by the family of the victim after public authority had been given them. In Aceh, blood revenge was taken under the leadership of the Panglima Kaum by the members of the Kaum, and the right of revenge extended to all the members of the ship to which the victim belonged. When the Uli Balangs took over the administration of justice, they considered adultery a crime as an infringement of the right of property and even unchastity sexual intercourse outside of marriage as a crime, being an offense against public morality. In the time of the sultans, if a woman became pregnant out of wedlock, or even if it became known that she went with a man, both were put to death. They were half buried alive and stoned, or thrown into a pit full of sharp spikes, or trodden under the feet of the sultan's elephants. Women were tortured to reveal the names of their lovers. If a woman belonged to an influential family, however, she was able to pay a large fine and marry her lover. If a man and a woman were caught in the act of adultery, the husband has to kill both. The, to have killed but one, to have killed but one would have been regarded as a murder by the family of the deceased. The husband too could claim vengeance later if he could produce a token such as a piece of the woman's clothing. Criminal rights, however, that while all forms of chastity were common in Aceh, its punishment was exceptional. The certainty of the punishment was far less than its severity, and hence the accusation of unchastity was commonly made a method of blackmail by the officers of the Ule Balangs. Where fines were paid, they went into the pockets of these officials. According to tradition, when the state first took over the punishment of crime, the original punishment for men was that of drowning, for men that of strangling. Later, the two punishments were combined. The male or female culprit had his or had held under water. A bamboo rod was placed over the throat of the victim, and two men, one on each bank, stood on the ends of the rod. Moral etiquette. The relations between men and women in Aceh are very strictly governed, although the women do not veil their faces when out of doors. No Chinese woman or girl will uncover her breasts before a man, even though it be her own husband. A man will not dare to address a woman who is walking alone, nor will a man walk alone with a woman, even though it be his own wife or mother, in spite of, or perhaps because of, the strict manner in which intercourse between the sexes is regulated. Prostitution exists as an institution in Aceh. It is well known that prostitution is rare or absent among primitive peoples. and is the most prevalent just among those civilized peoples who are the most practiced in regard to sexual behavior. In Aceh, prostitutes are recruited from number of girls from 18 to 20 who are not married, and especially widows and divorcees who have not made a second marriage. Prostitutes down up are looked down upon and not allowed entrance into some villages. Childbirth, contraception and abortion are common in Aceh, and the families on the whole are small. Due to early marriages, the first child is born when the mother herself is scarcely adult, and at 25, the woman is worn out. When a woman wishes a child, she will utilize various magical means, such as sacrificing by grapes, in order to obtain it. While usually in Aceh, but little attention is paid to a woman, she is made much of when pregnant, for now she has the fruit of the man within her. After pregnancy is known by the cessation of the natural periods. At once, both husband and wife take many precautions to avoid harm befalling the unborn child. During the first 5 months of pregnancy, the husband may kill no animals, not even a tiger or snake. If he kills an animal, the child will assume the peculiarities of the animal, and birth will be difficult. The man is not allowed to leave the house at night, but should remain at home to protect his wife from evil spirits. No one from a foreign village is allowed entrance to the house for fear that evil ghosts enter with him, or perhaps this is due to fear of the evil eye. The pregnant woman is allowed to do no heavy work, nor see any animal which might frighten her or cause a bad prenatal influence. She is not allowed to kill an animal and must abstain from certain fruits which have the reputation of causing abortions, and from fruits growing too closely together for fear of having twins. These are fed from economic grounds, but perhaps the original fear of twins may have been of superstitious nature, as in Nias. After childbirth, the woman is smoked over a fire. The placenta is cut off with bamboo knife and buried in a pot before the house. The fire then is kept burning over the spot for 7 nights. As among the Bataks and elsewhere in the archipelago, the belief exists in Aceh that the afterbirth is the incomplete twin brother sister of the child. The ghost of the placenta is thought to come and play within the child while the child is asleep. The child has a stomach ache. It is thought that the placenta is sick and carrying herbs as light on the spot where it is buried. If the child is still whole, the placenta is dug up and buried in a drier or warmer place. Infanticide is not allowed except in the case of malformed children. Sons, however, as in all Mohammedan countries, must be referred to daughters, and a female born out of wedlock is at once killed. If the mother is unable to suckle the child, the grandmother performs the duty. It is claimed that the grandmother will produce milk even though she herself has not had children for years. It is thought it is thought best that a member of the family act as wet nurse, for this, according to Mohammedan law, establishes a blood bond between two families and forms a barrier to marriage. According to the Quran, a woman is supposed to suckle her child for 2 years. Women who come to visit a newborn child are careful to speak as badly as possible about it. Otherwise, the spirits will be envious, the child will die. For example, instead of saying that the child is nice and plump, one says, "What a fat puppy." The child is likewise given some opprobrious nickname. The 7th day after the child is born is important. According to Mohammedan law, it is necessary on this day to give the child its name, to cut off his hair, and to sacrifice the child. The sacrifice, however, may be performed later when the child is grown. In Aceh, name giving and the first haircut are officially done on the 7th day, although they can be postponed. A feast is given and the hair of the head and the eyebrows of the child are shaved off. The sacrifice ritual is delayed to the time of circumcision or marriage or even death. On the 44th day after the birth, there is the ceremony of the taking away of the orphan. This is usually done on the 41st or 43rd day, since an even day is less lucky. A sacrificial meal is prepared and the midwife takes the oven on which the mother has laid and throws it under the house. Now the mother is bathed, and under no more restrictions and may return to her husband's bed. The midwife goes home and takes away with her all evil influence from the house. Before the midwife departs, however, the child itself must be brought out of the house and made to touch the ground. This first contact of the child with the ground, the Hindu Modak Act, is an important occasion for many of the people of the archipelago. The child is smeared with red earth and taught to secure it from the admiration of the public. Then it is carried out by the midwife and set with its feet on the ground. Afterwards, it is usually brought to the grave of its nearest deceased blood relative, where it has its head washed. Name giving. A child receives its name by preference on the seventh day after its birth. The name may either be Arabian or native. Males often receive Arabian names which, on the advice of the Tengku, are borrowed from a name definition book. Mohammedan name. Mohammedan male names. Male names include Ali, Ahmad, Muhammad, etc. Female Mohammedan names include Amida, Remela, etc. The native name, on the other hand, refers to one or another physical peculiarity of the bearer or the day on which he was born, of the palace in which he lives, etc. There can be no family or inherited name due to a taboo on the names of the dead. Names are kept through life, although men receive additional nicknames. The Achenese have the following taboos on names. 1. A person is not allowed to mention his own name. If one wishes to find out the name of a man, one has to ask a friend or bystander. Don't be like a turtle dove, said the natives of Aceh and Gayo, whoever is calling out his own name. 2. One does not call a companion by his own name, but calls him Mpiet. In conversation, one does not call a person by his name except in the case of very small children or very close relatives. An Achenese refers to a person by his rank, position, or nickname. Relatives use relationship terms. 4. It is forbidden to mention the name of one's father, mother, uncle, or spouse. To say a native of Gayo in his youth, your father was called so and so, is an insult which would lead to strife. In Gayo and Alas, when a person has a child, his former name becomes taboo. Puberty rights. Although not mentioned in the Quran, circumcision is the duty of every Muslim. This fact is so emphasized in Malaysia and India that to be circumcised is the equivalent of becoming a Muslim. Jacobs believes that the Achenese had circumcision before they became converted. However, the right probably was incision rather than circumcision proper. Boys are circumcised shortly after they have received elementary instruction in the Quran, otherwise between the 6th and 10th year of their lives. Girls are incised somewhat earlier, usually about the time that they can walk, the 2nd year. A Mohammedan priest circumcises boys and a midwife girls in Aceh, Gayo, and Alas. In Aceh, the circumcision has no special circumstances connected with it and is attended only by the family. Sometimes, however, when the boy has recovered from an illness, He is dressed as a bridegroom before the ceremony, and the ceremonial parade is made to an ancestral grave where his head is washed. Then a sacrificial meal is given. Until the one has healed, the youth is put on diet. He may eat or no he may eat no vegetables, but fruit or sap helps. In the main he must exist on dry ice. He may not set foot on the ground, but must wear sandals. After circumcision, the prepuce is hung up in the house. If the young is sick later on, the prepuce is taken down, washed in the lukewarm water, and the youth is given some of the water to drink. Menstruating women and those in general who are shedding blood have no access to boys who have just been circumcised. Circumcision here is all that remains of former tribal initiations. While among the Gayo boys are circumcised in groups, in Aceh the rite is performed upon individuals. After circumcision, the boy is treated as an adult. As soon as the one has healed, until the time of his marriage, the youth must live in the man's house. The only exception is made. The only exception made is in case of serious sickness. The incision of girls is done very secretly indeed. Even the father does not know when his daughter is incised. No celebration at all takes place at the time. Feeding of teeth is a pagan and not a Mohammedan custom. In fact, it is forbidden in a commentary on the Quran. However, the custom is ancient to the Malaysian peoples, and among the pre-Hindu population of Bali, the Baliyaya is a prerequisite to marriage. Due to Hindu and Mohammedan custom, the feeding of teeth is no longer required in Aceh and has fallen into disuse. Still, many of the population, both men and women, have their teeth filled. The operation is performed by a woman. Boys have their teeth filled as soon as the second set is complete, except for the wisdom teeth. Girls have their teeth filled after marriage. Only the upper teeth are filled as a rule. The teeth are covered with a blackening substance, which, however, is allowed to wear off. The Chinese girls have their ears bought when they are about 6 years of age. The operation is usually done by the mother, and there is no further mutilation of the earlobe. The Chinese girl has no special ceremony at the time of her first period. As everywhere among Mohammedan people, a girl or woman at such a time and upon its subsequent recurrence is considered unclean. For the beginning of the period for 7 days she can have no intercourse with men. She is not allowed to take part in prayer or any religious ceremony. The very Orthodox will not touch anything on which a menstruating woman has laid hands. After 7 days, the woman takes a purifying bath over which a formula has been spoken. Women are likewise forbidden coitus according to Mohammedan law after childbirth, after eclipses of the sun and moon, and at a later period of pregnancy. Education. Everyone in Dutch is instructed to read the Quran in the original Arabic characters. However, even the teachers do not know what they are reading and would be unable to translate into their own language. Facilities running the sacred book can be acquired in 2 years' times. In 2 years' time, boys also are taught to read Malay in Roman characters so that they can read the kitabs, a collection of religious writings written in Malay. They then retell this in Achinese, promising youths continue their education so that they can be religious teachers. There are no actual scholars in Aceh, and writing is not taught in the schools. If Achinese men now if Achinese men know how to write, it is because they have learned it from one another. That four duties especially are enjoined of the survivors of the deceased Mohammedan: 1. The washing of the body; 2. The envelopment in the throat; 3. The ritual service for the benefit of the dead. For the ritual, these rules are generally observed in Orthodox fashion among the Muslims of the Indian archipelago. Coffins are exceptional so among the Mohammedans, so that when they are used a little dirt is placed beneath the body. In Aceh, only slaves and the poor are buried without them. In case of death in the family, a man observes mourning for 40 years, for 44 days. He wears no festive clothing and goes neither to church nor to be the market nor to the marketplace, except in emergency. He neither walks nor fishes. He neither walks he neither walks nor fishes. Women keep mourning in March this Women keep mourning in much the same manner, and neither oil themselves nor wear flowers. There is no common burial place, but every family has its own burial grounds. A man who dies in the village of his wife is buried in his own family burial grounds. Children are buried in the grounds of the father's family.